Here are the new skills for week 8. The first tab you'll need for week 8 is the page layout tab. What you're going to do in the page layout tab is you are going to have to choose a theme. And you will click right here under themes, and you can scroll down and you can pick any one theme you want, and what that's going to do is it's going to affect the overall look of what it is that you're creating. It's going to affect the colors that are available by default for you to use. So you'll have to choose a theme, and that's in the page layout tab. You can choose any theme you want for this week's assignment. The next thing you'll have to do in the page layout tab is you'll have to insert a page border. So you'll click on page borders, and again you can choose any border that you want. Let's make it a little wider. Let's pick a different pattern. See, there's all these different patterns right here. And you're going to have to choose a color besides black. So you'll click on color, and you will have to choose a color from one of the colors that goes with your theme. If you picked a different theme, you'd have different colors. So you will pick, and it's going to have to be a top row color, one of these. So don't use the shadings down here. Use one of these colors. We will go with orange and click OK. That's how you do a page border. Now really quick, this isn't actually in Word, this is actually just in Windows itself. If you've ever noticed down here in the corner, you have something called the system tray, and that's everything that hangs out by the clock. And the clock itself you can click on, and if you hold the mouse over without clicking on it, you'll get the date is going to pop up right here. And if you click on it again, it's going to give you a calendar. So this calendar is helpful if you ever need to kind of see a date on something when something's coming up. You're going to need it for this week's assignment because you're going to have to create your own calendar. You'll get the instructions to do that, but you will have to make sure that you have the days of the month correct. So you'll have to use this calendar to double check and see what days go on where. Okay, the next tab is going to be the View tab. The first thing under the View tab you're going to do is make sure the ruler is turned on. That's in the Show group right here. You will make sure this box ruler is checked. If you uncheck it, see, the rulers on the side and the top disappear. If you check it, the rulers reappear. You will need to use those. And then also, once you have the ruler open, this doesn't necessarily have to be done in the View tab, but once you have the ruler open, you're going to have to find a specific mark on the side here to put your cursor. So for example, you will find the mark for 3, that stands for 3 inches, and you'll come over here and you'll double click because that's where you want your cursor to go. Say I wanted it to be 3 inches in the center and 3 inches down, I could double click here and that's going to put my cursor there. So you will have to do that. So right now let's just put the cursor here, and let's move down a little farther to 3. There we go. And the next thing you'll have to do is you will have to use what's called the Quick Table Creator. So if you remember to insert a table, you use the Insert tab. Last week when you inserted a table, you actually went down to Insert Table. This week you're just going to be using this, and see if you watch the page, as I highlight different boxes here, it changes the way the table looks on the page. So let's just make a little 4x1 table right here. Okay, the next thing, let's fill in the text. Cell 1, cell 2, cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, cell 4. Okay, so I have 4 cells that I've filled in. And remember, I use Tab to go from cell to cell, and I can use Shift+Tab to go back a cell. So Tab to go forward cells, Shift+Tab to go back cells. Tab, Shift+Tab. Okay, the next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to learn how to shrink columns in a table without changing the table width. So what you'll do is you'll click on one of the column lines in between the 2 sides of the table, and you can drag on that. It doesn't change the overall width. See how far it is from the page border right here? It doesn't change that, it just changes the width of the cells. The next thing you're going to have to do is change the row height. So you're going to click here, and you're going to click outside on the left side, left side over here, and you're going to go to Table Properties all the way down at the bottom of the right-click menu. Then you'll click on, there's tabs up here, you'll click on the tab that says Row, and you'll check the box that says Specify Height. Let's just change that to 1 inch. It's going to do it in tenths of an inch, so if you don't want to have to sit here and just click one at a time, you can erase what's there and just type in 1. And then you'll click OK. And now it's made the row taller. The next thing you're going to have to do is insert a new row into the table. So what you'll do is, again, you'll right-click outside, or you'll click outside here to highlight the whole table, all the cells, and then you'll right-click and you'll go to Insert, and it's going to give you options. It's going to say, do you want to insert columns to the left or right? Do you want to insert rows above or below? We want to insert one row below. So we just did that. Or we can insert one row above if we wanted to. The next thing you'll have to do is merge cells. What merging means is making 2 or more cells into one single cell. So say we wanted to make these 2 cells into one big cell. We would highlight them just like this, and we can right click, we can go to merge cells, or we hit undo, Control Z. We can come up here to the table layout menu, and there's a merge cells button right there. If we want to do more, we highlight those. Again, you can go right click merge, or you can come up here to the table layout menu and you can merge cells that way. I like the right click option. Next thing you're going to have to do is change table borders and shading. So let's click on this cell right here. So you click outside to highlight the cells. Let's do these right here. And then you're going to right click, and then you'll go to borders and shading. The first thing you're going to do, or one of the things you can do, is click on None, and that will take away, if you see over here in the preview, that takes away all of the table borders. All gives you all table borders, None takes them all away. Another thing you can do is you can change the color. For this week's assignment, for the table borders, you're going to have to pick one of these colors up here. Let's go ahead and pick blue. It's going to have to be the top row of color, so again, not the shading ones right there. So click on that, and you're going to have to change the width to 3 point. Now, even though we've set those, there's still nothing over here because we chose None, remember? So now what you can do is you can add it only certain places, and for one of the assignments this week, you're only going to have borders on the top and the bottom. That's what the directions say. So you can either click on the top and on the bottom, or see how there's little buttons here and there's a line at the top. Click that, it'll put a line at the top, that a line at the bottom. If we click here, it'll put a line in the middle. This way it'll be a line sideways, and then the other side. So we don't need all those this week. We only need top and bottom. The next tab over, or actually the third tab, skip page border, we already did page border. The third tab over is going to be shading. You're going to have to set that this week. You will click on Fill, and whatever color you set as the page border, see you set the blue before, the assignment this week asks you to go one more square down. So if you chose the blue right here, you're going to choose the second square down. If you hold the mouse over it, it's going to pop up saying the color. It'll say accent 3, and it'll say lighter 80%. That's the one you need to choose. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the cell itself shaded that color. But that way, the borders are one color and the cell is shaded a lighter version of that same color. So if you click OK, you'll see what it does. You don't have any lines that show up in the middle. You only have a top and a bottom. If you want to turn on what are called the grid lines, remember this from last week, so that you can see where all of your cells are, in the Table Layout tab up here, you will go to View Grid Lines, and that shows you all of your grid lines. Okay, Also up here, also with the table, before we've used the table layout tab, we haven't used the design tab. This time we're going to go to the design tab and we're going to change the table style. Remember how you had the overall page style? Well, these are the table styles. You can see some of them right here. See, the group is actually called table styles. You can see some of them right here. If you click down, you'll see more, or you can click on this button. If you hold the mouse over, it says more, and it's going to show you all of them. You can look at them and you can do some fun things with the different styles. And it's going to give you different options here. And highlight different things. You can kind of see behind there how the table's changing based on what you choose. So we'll pick that. So that's table style. Two more things in tables. One thing is, if you want to delete a whole bunch of data at the same time in a table, you can highlight it rather than going cell by cell. You can highlight everything you want to delete. Don't hit the backspace key. If you hit the backspace key, it's going to ask you if you want to take out the cells completely, or sometimes it might just delete them even without asking. You don't want to delete the cells completely. You want to leave the cells there. You just want to take the stuff out. So what you have to do after you highlight them, you have to hit the delete key. Hitting the delete key will take everything out of the cell, but it leaves the cell there. So make sure that that's what you do. Don't use backspace. It might delete your cells. And then, let's undo that really quick. The other thing is right alignment. Remember how you had to center a line before? You'll highlight everything in there. You'll right click and you go to cell alignment. And before you did the align center. For this one, you'll have to do right align. So it goes in the top left right there. But just remember, this changes where everything goes within a cell. That's it for tables. The next thing you'll have to do this week is insert. So we go to the insert menu and you'll have to insert what's called a text box. And a text box is just a shape that you can use to put words in, so you can make it look different. You can move them around differently. So you could choose one of the built-in ones, but this week we're going to go to draw text box. So you'll click on that and you're going to make a text box, and it'll give you the little plus sign, and you just basically click on the page and drag, and it makes your text box, and you get this. And see how there's the cursor right here? You can type in this and then you can move it around the page and the words move wherever you want. So that's how you insert a text box. The next thing you'll need to do with the text box is choose what's called a shape style. So if you look up here, now that we've clicked in the text box, it brings up the format menu right here, and you have this group called shape styles. And now you can see some here, and you can click them and scroll through them, or you can click down here at the bottom for more, and you've got a whole bunch that you can choose from. So different shape styles, shading. If you look, this gives you like a little background shadow. Looks kind of cool. There's other ones you can choose over here that are patterns and things like that. So you're going to get to choose whatever you want. Let's choose this one right here. That looks kind of nice. The next thing you're going to have to do is, again, up here in the Format tab, you're going to align the text. So see how the cursor's up here in the top corner? Got the cursor right there. You're going to align the text so it goes in the middle. And that's up here in the text group in the Format tab. And in the text group, you'll click on Align Text. You will choose Middle. And see, it's still over here, so you remember how to align stuff center. You're just going to go, hold down the Control key, hit E, Control E, puts it right in the middle. Once you've made a text box and you have your text inside it, you will have to change the size of the font so that whatever you wrote in the text box will fit. You can either do that by clicking on here and changing the font size itself. See how this doesn't fit? Now we need to go smaller. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut you learned for changing font size. Hold down the Control key and you're going to hit the bracket key. The bracket key is the one that looks like this. That's for making text smaller, or you can do this bracket. Let's write that. Control and this bracket will make it larger. So what you'll do is you'll highlight the text. If you want the font larger, you'll press that. That makes it too large, so see it doesn't fit. Or you can hit the other bracket to make it smaller, and you want it just big enough to fit in there. So now that's one too big. Let me go one font size smaller. That one fits. So that's exactly how you'll do that. The next thing you'll have to do is you'll have to insert a shape, and you're going to have to attach it to the text box. So here you've got your text box right here. To insert a shape, you'll go to the Insert menu, and you will click on Shapes. And the shape you're going to have to insert is going to be an arrow. So click on that, and you're going to want to try and center it where the text box is. So get about the center of the text box right here. You're going to draw an arrow. See, when you click on the text box, now it has that little box. It had a little box right there that you're a little bit off center. So you're going to click on the arrow, and you're going to just use the mouse, and you can scoot it over a little bit with the arrow keys. You're not using the mouse, sorry. Use the arrow keys, and you can scoot it over just a little bit, and you can move it down and up and just help position it. You don't want it sticking out of the text box. You want it right lined up with the text box. So you'll get it right there on the edge. And then, now see how the arrow is a different color than this was? What you'll do is you'll go up here again, once you click on the arrow, you get the Format tab. You've got Shape Styles. You'll go and you'll choose the same shape style you just used, which was this one right here with the shadow. And you'll click that. To whatever one you use. You don't have to use the same one as me. But make sure it's lined up. The next thing you're going to have to do, and this can be a little tricky, is you're going to have to group the text box here and the arrow here together. And what that means is when you resize one thing, they both resize. If you move one thing, they both move. Because right now, if you want to move the text box, you click on it, you move the mouse to the edge, and you get those little 4 crosshairs, is what they're called right there. And you can move it, but the arrow doesn't go with it. Or you could move the arrow, but the text box doesn't go with it. So you want to do what's called grouping them together. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on both of them. So click on the arrow, hold down the Control key, click on the text box. Oops. Click on the arrow, hold down the Control key, click on the text box, and see how now both edges have the little bubbles around them? That means that they're both together. So what you'll do, right click on the arrow, or there you go, right click on the arrow. When the menu comes up, you'll go to Group, and you will choose to group them. And see now that they're in one large box. You can still click on the text box by itself or the arrow by itself, but they're in one large box. So say you want to resize it, they resize together. So you want to make them wider, it gets wider together. If you want to move it around, you can move it around. And something I haven't showed you, you don't need for this week, but it's kind of cool. See how it's a little green dot up here? Hold the mouse over it, it turns into that arrow. That means rotate. So you could rotate stuff upside down, move it all around, put it back to the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, now this is how things are grouped. And then if you want to ungroup them, you'll again click on them so that you have the box that covers both of them. And then you will right click and you'll go to Group again, and you will choose Ungroup, and that takes them apart and puts them back into 2 separate pieces. We're going to keep those grouped though. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to copy this whole thing. So you can either right click and go copy, or you can just make sure the mouse is on both of them and go Control C, and you'll have to paste it, and you're going to move it around. Oh, shoot. So to move it again, you got to go to one of the edges right here until you get those little plus crosshair thingies right there.